I was sentenced to more than 130 years in prison, with some of that time suspended, but still told I was going to spend more than 3 decades in prison. There were two things in play. There were the state sentencing guidelines, and there were the statutory limitations. And back then, the statutory limitations for robbery, for all sorts of charges, were 20 to life, which meant if you committed one of those crimes, you could get anywhere from 20 years to life. Now, the judge could suspend some of that, so you could get 150 years, but with 149 suspended, so only actually serve 1 year based on good behavior. Then they could have you on probation for the rest of your life. If you messed up one time, you get those 149 years back. So, rather than just giving that kind of broad discretion in those wild sentences, you had the state sentencing guidelines, which were calculated based on sentences given to other people across the Commonwealth with similar charges. So basically it would say, okay, the average for somebody with a robbery charge in this situation would get 8 years or 10 years or whatever. Then your guidelines might be from 6 to 12 years and the midpoint of 9 or whatever. It's basically trying to create some sort of fairness across the Commonwealth. So in my case, the state sentencing guidelines originally called for between 8 and 13 years with a midpoint of 10. They were modified on the day of sentencing by the Commonwealth to go from 10 to 16 and a half. So that modification is fair. They basically say, hey, we feel like this no longer meets the facts of the case. We feel like there are extenuating circumstances, or there were compounding circumstances, or there's something that's aggravating or whatever. So they can modify those. They can't modify the actual statutory limitations. But by the statutory limitations, they could have given me multiple life sentences. And I've actually seen guys who, I know one guy who committed a robbery, didn't hurt anybody, didn't shoot anybody, didn't anything, got 5 life sentences because there were 5 people there. And for every person there, you can get a separate robbery or a separate abduction charge. This doesn't mean you like kidnapped somebody or tied them up. It just literally means they were there when you committed a robbery. So by threat of force, or by having a weapon, or by yelling really loudly and scaring them, you abducted them because they didn't feel comfortable to leave. So it's one of those things with really broad discretion for commonwealths or for prosecutors, as well as for judges. That's why the most powerful person in the room is always the prosecutor and the judge, because they can do some wild stuff. They can take somebody with a nonviolent crime, and in some cases where the statutory limitations allow for it, give them 50 years. Like somebody who hasn't hurt anybody, be like, yep, I'm going to stick you in prison for 50 years. Doesn't happen in most cases, but they have the power to make it real.